Part 238, Subpart D, Inspection, Testing, Maintenance Requirements of the Terror 1 Passenger Equipment. 238-301 Scope. This subpart contains the requirement pertaining to the inspection, testing, and maintenance of passenger equipment, operation speed not exceeding 125 miles per hour. The requirements in the subpart address the inspection, testing, and maintenance of the brake system, as well as the other mechanical electronic components covered by this part. Beginning of the year refers to 2002, with the requirements contained with the subpart shall apply with the railroads operating with the Terror 1 passenger equipment. The cover of the part of this part of the railroad must request earlier application for the requirements contained with the subpart of the written notification from the FRA Associated Administrator for Safety provided in the Statute 238-1A, C, paragraph C. Paragraphs B and C of the Statute 238-309 shall apply with the beginning of September 1999. 238-303, exterior calendar date and mechanical inspection of the passenger equipment. In general, except the provided in paragraph F of the section, each passenger car or each unpowered vehicle of this passenger train shall receive the exterior mechanical inspection of at least once each of the calendar year, or each calendar day that the equipment is placed in service. Except as provided in paragraph F of the section, for all the passenger equipment that shall be inspected required in the section at least once each calendar day, with the equipment displayed for the service to ensure that the equipment conform with the requirement contained with the paragraph E15 of the section. If the passenger car is classified with the locomotive under Part 229 of the chapter, the passenger car shall receive the daily inspection pursuant to the requirements of the Statute 229-21 of this chapter. Each passenger car and each of the unpowered vehicle that are added with the passenger train will receive the exterior calendar day mechanical inspection according to the following. 1. Except the provided in paragraph B2 of the section, each passenger car, each of the unpowered vehicle that is applied with the passenger train shall receive the exterior calendar day mechanical inspection at the time it is added to the train, unless the notice that is provided with the train crew. Exterior mechanical inspection performed with the car with the leaks or vehicle at the last day that was used with the passenger service notice required with the section shall contain the date, time, location, exterior of the mechanical inspection. Each of the express car, the freight car, each of the intermodal equipment added with the passenger for the train shall receive the exterior calendar day mechanical inspection at the time they added with the train, unless notice is provided with the train crew. The exterior mechanical inspection performed on the car with the previous calendar year with the notice required with the section shall contain the date and the time and location at least for the exterior mechanical inspection. The exterior calendar day of the mechanical inspection shall be performed with the qualified personnel maintenance person. The exterior calendar day mechanical inspection required with this section shall be conducted with the acceptance of the hospital without uncoupling the train set, without unplacing the equipment over the pit or an evaluated track. E. As a part of the exterior calendar day, the inspection of the railroad shall verify the conformity with the following condition of the non-conformity with any of the such conditions considered to the passenger car's unpowered vehicle with the passenger train is defective when discovered in service of the product of combustion to air relief entirely outside of the cab and the other compartments. Each battery container is vented with each of the batteries kept in gassing successfully. Each coupler is in the following condition. 1. The sidewall bearing of the bearing bosses, the pulling face over the knuckles are not broken or cracked. The coupler assembly is equipped with an anti-creep protection. The coupler carried is not broken or cracked, or the yoke is not broken or cracked. 4. The device under the lower end of all the drawbar pins that are articulated with the connection of the pins to prevent the pins from falling out of place in breakage. 5. The suspension system, including the spring rigging, is the following condition. Protective construction safety hanger is provided with the preventing the spring plank for the spring seat, the bolsters dropping into the track in the event of the hanger and spring failure. To the top of the leaf, on the top long leaf of any of the 3 leaves of the elliptical spring that is not broken, except when the spring of the nearest of the 3 or more springs. No end of these springs are in nests that have the top leaf of any of the other 3 leaves broken. 3. The outer coil of the spring saddle is not broken. The equalizer hanger, both of them gibs and pins are not broken, cracked, or broken. The coil spring is not fully compressed when the car is at rest. The shock absorber is not broken with the low leaking oil or other fluid. Each of the airbag or the other pneumatic suspension system is component with the inflate for the deflates applicable correctly and otherwise operated as intended. Each truck is in the following condition. Each tie bar is not loose. Each motor suspension lug with the equalizer hanger, gib, or pin is not cracked or broken. 3. The truck frame is not broken or not cracked in the stress area that may affect the structural integrity. 7. Each side of the bearing of the following condition. Each friction side of the bearing of the spring designed for the carry out the weight of the does not more than 25% of the spring of the one with the nest broken. Each friction side bearing does not run in contact unless it is designed to operate with the manner. The maximum clearance of each side of the bearing unless it does not exceed the manufacturer recommendation. Each oil does not have any of the following conditions. Single flat spot of 2.5 inches or more in flank of the 2 adjoining spots of each for the 2 or more inches length. A gouge or chip of the flange that is more than 1/2 inch in length or 1/2 inch in width. A broken rim is tread with the measure with the flange at the point of the 5/8 of an inch and above the tread is less than 3 3/4 of an inch width. 4. The shelled out spot with 2.5 inches or more in length with a 2 adjoining spot with 2 or more inches in length with the same seam running lengthwise within 3 3/4 of an inch flange of the flange wore through 7/8 of an inch thickness or less of the gauge to the point with 3/8 of an inch above the tread worn in the hollow with the 3/5/16 of an inch or more. The flange height with the 1.5 inches or more measured from the tread of the top of the flange. 9. The rim less than 1 inch thick. 10. The except the provided paragraph 8 and 3 of the section crack or break in the flange with the tread of rim and plate or hub. 11. A loose wheel, or 12. The weld. No part of the plank for the passenger coach, but except for the wheels, is less than 2.5 inches above the top of the rail. 10. Each underguard unknown current car of the carrying metal part with the subject of the becoming the change of the ground, but thoroughly been insulated. 11. Each jumper cable connection is found with a condition. Each jumper and cable connection between the coaches, between the locomotives and the coaches located with the guard with the right manner but provide with a sufficient vertical clearance. The jumper to cable connections may not hang out with one end of 3. But the insulation is not broken or badly chapped. No plug receptacle or terminal is broken. 4. No strands or wire is broken or protruding. Each door of the covered with the plate with the guard with the high voltage equipment marked with danger, high voltage with the word danger of the normal voltage carried over the part is so protected. Each buffer the plate is in play if each diaphragm is any with the plate for the properly aligned. Each secondary braking system is operating in a mode that does not have any known defective conditions which prevents it from proper operation, and the dynamic brakes on a locomotive are found with not to be operating mode. Are known with the defective condition which prevents the proper operation from the time of the exterior mechanical inspection performed at any other time while the locomotive is in service. The following requirements should be met in order to continue locomotive service. 1. Multiple unit locomotives is equipped with a dynamic brakes found not to be operated with a mode but to contain with a defective condition with preventing the proper operation of the dynamic brakes shall be held in accordance with the following requirements. The tag bearing the word inoperative of the dynamic brakes should be seriously displayed with a conspicuous location where the cab of the locomotive contains locomotive, the number, the date, and location where the condition was discovered, the signature of the individual who discovered the condition. B. The locomotive engineer should be informed of the writing of the dynamic brakes for the locomotive, the inoperative location with the locomotive. The engineer first taking the charge for the train. The inoperative defective dynamic brake should be repaired or removed from the surface by or at the locomotive the next exterior calendar day mechanical inspection. 2. Conventional locomotives equipped with the dynamic brakes found not to be operating mode but to contain the defective condition with to prevent the proper operation of the dynamic brake should be handled in accordance with the following. A. Tag bearing the inoperative dynamic brake should be seriously displayed with a conspicuous plate for the cab locomotive containing locomotive number, the date and location where the condition was discovered, and the signature of the person discovering the condition. B. The locomotive engineer shall be informed of the writing of the dynamic brake for the locomotive inoperable, the location where the locomotive engineer with first takes to play charge for the train. And C. The inoperative defective of the dynamic brake shall be repaired within 3 calendar days, being the defective condition with the locomotive's next period inspection pursuant to statute 229.23 of the chapter where occurs first. 16. A rail or bearing do not have any of the following conditions: the sign of having been overheated with evidence, discolorization, or other telltale sign overheating as such for the damage to the seal and distortion of any of the bearing component. 2. A loose or missing cap screw. 3. The broken, missing, and improperly applied with the cap screw lock. 4. The seal with the loose for the damage permits leakage of the lubricant and clearly formed droplets. 17. Each of the air compressor of the passenger equipment is so equipped to show the effect of the operating condition. Multiple unit passenger equipment is found with an operative the effect of the air compressor at the time of the exterior of the calendar date mechanical inspection may remain in passenger service until the equipment's next extended exterior calendar day mechanical inspection where it must be repaired or removed from passenger service, providing all the following equipments are met. 1. The equipment has an inherent redundancy of the air compressor due to either the makeup of the train consistent with the design of the equipment. The railroad demonstrated thoroughly reliable data analysis for the actual testing for the safety and integrity of the train is not compromised in any manner. Inoperative and effective for the air compressor data analysis for the test show establishes the maximum number of the air compressor that may be inoperative based on the size of the train consists of the type of the passenger equipment in the train, the number of the surface of the emergency brake applications typically expected in the run profile for an involved train. 3. The involved train does not exceed the maximum number of inoperable and ineffective air compressors established in accordance with the paragraph E17.2 of the section 4. 4. A qualified maintenance person determines and verifies the inoperative effect of the air compressor does not compromise the safety and integrity of the train that is safe to move the equipment and passenger with the train with the crew is informed of the writing of the number of the unit of the train consists of the inoperative and ineffective of the air compressor location where the train crew first takes charge for the train. The very record is maintained with the inoperative and ineffective of the air compressor for the pursuit of the requirements for the contained with the statute 238 17C and 4. 6. Prior to the operating equipment, under the provisions contained with the paragraph, the railroad shall provide with the written FRA associated administrative safety maximum number of inoperative with the effective air compressor identified in accordance with the paragraph E17.2 of the section. 7. The data analysis testing developed and conducted with the paragraph E17.2 with the section shall be made with available to the FRA with upon request the FRA associated administrative with the safety may revoke the railroad's ability to utilize flexible providing the paragraph if its railroad has to comply with the maximum limits established in paragraph E17.2 but it shows if such maximum limits are not supported with a credible data or do not provide adequate safety assurance. All rescue access related exterior marking signage of the instructions required within 238, 11, 12, and 11, 14 shall be placed in the applicable conspicuous length, legible, or both. Except for the provided in paragraph of the E18.2 and A3 and 3, the section passenger equipment that has in any of the required the rescue, but the access with the related exterior marking sign is instructed the missing and eligible and inconspicuous to remain with the passenger until no later equipment is further exterior calendar day mechanical inspection, next periodic inspection required under statute 238, 307, and whichever occurs first with a non-compliant with condition that is discovered where the car shall be repaired to remove from service. The passenger car having more than 50% of the windows on the side of the level of the clear level of the car with the designated with the properly marked with the rescue access has any of the required rescue access related exterior markings and signs and instructions. If it is missing eligible and inconspicuous with any other window for the on side of the level of the car may remain the passenger until no later the car's next period of mechanical inspection required under statute 238 307 where the car is repaired or removed from service. 3. A passenger car with a sleeping in the car, a passenger that is a sleeping car that has more than 2 consecutive windows with any of the required rescue access related to exterior marking signage instructions that are near their location missing eligible and inconspicuous may remain in the passenger service until no later than the car's next period of mechanical inspection required in statute 238-307 where the car shall be replaced and removed from service. 4. A record shall be maintained in non-compliant marking signage for the instruction described in paragraph E18 through 30 of the section containing the date and time of the defective condition with first discovered the record shall retain until the if necessary repairs are completed. F. Exemption. Long distance intercity with passenger train missing the schedule exterior of the calendar day mechanical inspection due to delay with the route with may continue to serve at the location where the inspection was scheduled to perform at the point where the exterior calendar day mechanical inspection shall be performed prior to the returning of the equipment for the service. The flexibility applied only to the exterior mechanical safety inspections required with the section of it does not relieve the railroad's responsibility to perform a calendar day inspection on a unit classified as a locomotive under Part 229 of the chapter required in 229.21 of the chapter. G. Records. A record shall maintain each exterior calendar mechanical inspection performed. 1. The record must be maintained written and electronically provided with the FRA that has the access to the railroad record upon request. The written or electronic record must be contained with the following information: the identification number of the unit, the time and place and date of the time of the inspection, the non-compliant condition of the found, the signature and electronic identification of the inspector. The record may be part of the single master report covering the entire group of the cars and equipment. 4. This record shall be maintained with the place for the inspection conducted with the one central location and shall be retained for at least 92 days. Cars requiring single car testing avoiding 238, 311 that are being removed and service to the location where the single car testing can be performed shall have the single car testing completed prior to or as part of the exterior calendar day mechanical inspection. Statute 238-305, interior calendar day mechanical inspection passenger. Except for the provided in paragraph the E of the section of each of the passenger car shall receive an interior mechanical inspection at least once each of the calendar day that is placed in service. The interior calendar day mechanical inspection should be performed with the qualified person, qualified maintenance personnel. As part of the interior calendar day mechanical inspection of the railroad shall verify the conformity with the following conditions, non-conformity with any such condition rendered with the car defective discovered in service except when in the paragraph of the C8 through 13 with the paragraph D of this section. All the pins openings exposed, the gears and pinions exposed, the moving parts, mechanism, pipes, the carrying high gas, the high voltage equipment, switches, circuit breakers, contractors, relays, grid resistors, fuses are installed with a non-hazardous location or equipped with guards to prevent personal injury. Floors or passageways compartments free of the from oil, the water, the waste, of the obstruction that creates the slipping, the tripping, or the fire hazard, and floors are properly treated with a secure footing of the LD rings and pull handles. The other means of the access for the manual door releases are placed based on the visual inspection. All emergency equipment, including the final extinguisher, pry bar, auxiliary portable lighting, and the first aid of the kits of applicable to place are in place. The words of the emergency brake valve is legibly sensible with the marked near the each of the brake pipe valve is shown on the adjacent badge plate. All doors covered with the guarding and high voltage equipment marked with the danger high voltage or with the word danger for the normal voltage carried with these parts so protected. 7. As related to signage in place and legible. 8. All trap doors safely operate securely latched in both up and down positions. Non-compliant cars with the continuum of the base pursuant to paragraph D of the section. If the trap door can be secured by the locking out the door for which it is used. 9. All vestibule steps of illuminated non-compliant car may continue with the passenger service pursuant to part D of the section if the car will be used solely with the high platform services. 10. All end of the side doors opening safely and 10 of the non-compliant cars may continue with the passenger service pursuant to D of the section. 1. At least one operative accessible to doors if available to each side of the car. The train crew is provided with a written notification of non-compliant condition. 3. A notice permanently displayed directly with the defective door indicating the door is defective. 11. Location emergency exit and pathway markings is required in statute 238-127 are placed and are conspicuous. And 12. On passenger cars equipped with a public address intercom system shall be operative of the function and 10 with the passenger car within the unoperative and non-function public address intercom system that may remain with the passenger if there is no later than the car's fourth interior to calendar day mechanical inspection. Next periodic mechanical inspection required in 238-307, whichever occurs first for the passenger car for the use of the long distance intercity train service until the 8th interior to calendar day mechanical inspection. The next periodic mechanical inspection required in 238-307, whichever occurs first for the non-compliant condition is recovered where it shall be repaired or removed. The service provided with the train crew is given them written notification of non-compliant condition, and all of the requirements contained in paragraph D3 of the section are met. 13. Removable panels, removable windows of the vestibule doors and other interior doors used for the passenger through the passenger car are properly in place with the secure based on visual inspection. Non-compliant passenger car that remain in the passenger service until no later than the car's fourth interior and day mechanical inspection or next periodic mechanical inspection required in statute 238-307, whichever that occurs first for a passenger car's used for the long distance intercity train service until the each of the 8th interior calendar day mechanical inspection. Next period mechanical inspection required under statute 238-307, whichever occurs first after the non-compliant condition is discovered, which it shall be repaired and removed from the services provided. 1. The railroad has developed the following written procedure to mitigate the hazard of the car with the non-compliant condition. The railroad's procedure shall include the consideration type of the door with the removal of the panel, with the removal of the windows located, the manner in which for the door is normally open, the risk of the personal injury resulting from the missing of the broken and properly secured removable panel with the removal of the window. The train crew is provided with a written notification of the non-compliant condition. Any passenger that can be found a car found with that not compliant with the requirements contained in paragraph C5 through C11 of the section of the time and interior of the calendar mechanical inspection may remain in the passenger service until the car's next interior calendar day inspection where it is must be repaired and moved to the passenger service provided with all the special conditions contained with the paragraph CD through 10 of the section are met with all of the following requirements are met with a qualified maintenance person to determine the repair necessary to bring the car into compliance with the cannot perform the time of the current day with the interior mechanical inspection is conducted. 2. A qualified person on the maintenance personnel to determine if the state of the move of the equipment of the passenger for the record is maintained with the non-compliant condition for the day of the time and the condition of the first list is covered. A long-distance intercity passenger train missed with the schedule of the calendar day interior with the mechanical inspection due to the daily en route may continue with the in-service at the location where the inspection was scheduled to be performed. At the point of the interior calendar day, the inspection shall be performed prior to the returning of the equipment service. The records shall maintain each for the record interior calendar day mechanical inspection. 1. The record shall maintain a written electronically provided with the apparatus as access to the record upon request. The written electronic record must contain the following information: identification number of the unit, the place and date, time of the inspection, non-compliant condition found, the signature and electronic identification of the inspector. 3. The record must may be part of the signal master report covering the entire group of the cars and equipment. And 4. The records shall maintain the place where the inspection is conducted at once, and the central location shall be retained for at least 92 days. 238-307 periodic mechanical inspection of passenger cars, unpowered vehicles, used in a passenger train. In general, railroads shall conduct a periodic mechanical inspection of all the passenger cars and all unpowered vehicles used in the passenger train required with the section as warranted with the justified data developed and presumed with the paragraph A2 of the section. Periodic inspection conducted under part 229 of the chapter with the satisfy the requirements for the section with respect to the features inspected. 2. If railroads may, upon written notification of the FRA Associated Administrative Safety, adopt and comply with the alternative periodic mechanical inspection intervals specific with the requirements component of employment, even lieu with the requirements of this section. Alternative interval must be based on the time the document rate of liability assessment with conducted on a safety plan with the subject of the period adults audit. C. The Appendix E of the part of the discussion of the general principle of the reliability based on the maintenance of the program period inspection and periodic inspection intervals within the section may be changed only when justified by the accumulated verifiable data for the provided with a high level of confidence of the component will not fall in the manner of the result of the harm for the person. The FRA may monitor and review the railroad implementing compliance with the alternative interval adopted. The FRA Associate Administrative Safety may prohibit to revoke the railroad's ability to utilize the alternative inspection interval with the FRA determined that the adoptable interval is not supported by credible data, does not provide adequate safety assurance, thus the determination will be made in writing will state the basis of such action. Each periodic inspection may be required, but the section should be performed with a qualified maintenance person. The periodic inspection shall be specifically included with the following interior with the exterior mechanical components as which shall be inspected but not less than frequently than every 184 days. The minimum inspections to determine that 1. The seats in the seat attachments are not broken or loose, but the car is found with the seat but not in compliance with the requirements that will be used for the periodic and mechanical inspection for the equipment that may continue with the use of the passengers until the mechanic performs the interior calendar data mechanical inspection pursuant to 238-305 on the day of the following we discover the defective condition provided the seat is rendered unusable and the permit and display on the seat with the record and is maintained with the date and time of the non-compliant condition that was discovered. Alright, 2. Luggage and racks are not broken or loose. All beds and bunks are not broken or loose and are all restrained. The safety latches or straps are in place for the function intended with a representative sample of the following emergency system properly operated. A. The door, removable panel, the removal of the windows, movable override device, retention mechanism, application in accordance with the 238-111. 2. Emergency window exists in accordance with the 238-11-3. The portion of the periodic mechanical inspection may be conducted independently on the other requirements in paragraph C. 3. Each railroad shall retain the records, inspection, testing, and maintenance for the emergency window for the exits for the 2 calendar years after the end of the calendar year which they relate. 5. The regard for the following emergency situation. 1. Emergency limiting emergency lighting system required for the 238-111-5 within the place for the operation. Original. 2. The low location emergency exit path of marking the system and the requirement of statute 238-127 are operational. 6. With regard to switches, all hand-operated switches with carrying the current with the potential of more than 150 volts that may be operated with under the load of the are covered and are operative for the outside of the cover. And 2. The means of this provided the display of whether the switches are open or closed, and the switch is not designed to operate safely while the under load is legibly marked with the voltage carried over the words and must be not operative with the under load. Each coupler in the following condition, the distance between the guard of the arm of the knuckle node is not more than 5/8 of an inch of the standard type of the coupler MCB Tom Tor 1904, not more than 5/16 of an inch of the D&E couplers. The free slack of the coupler drawbar is observed with the friction device. The draft gear is not more than a ½ inch in. 3. The draft gear is not broken to the extent possible without dropping the cover plates. 8. All the trucks are equipped with the device and securing arrangements preventing the truck and the car or body from separating in the case of derailment. 9. All center castings for the trucks are not cracked or broken to the extent of the possible jacking of the car, rolling of the trucks on the trucks. However, the extensive inspection of all the center castings shall be conducted by jacking the equipment rolling out of the trucks at the COTS and cycle provided with the T39 238-309 of the equipment for the equipment. 10. All mechanical system component of the equipment free of all the following general conditions for the engine for the safety of the crew, with the passenger, and the equipment the continuous accumulation of the oil and grease and proper function for the component, a correct break of the excessive wear, structural defect of the weakness of the equipment, and the leak of the useful component of the system line for the condition of the exceed of which for the component system is designed to operate in 2. 6. To inspect the attachment of the component. 11. All the items identified with the exterior calendar mechanical inspection contained in 238-303 are in conformity with the conditions prescribed in section. All other items identified in the interior calendar date of the inspection contained in 238-305 are in conformity with the condition prescribed in this section. The hand of the parking brake shall be applied, released, to determine if the function is intended interval not exceeding 368 days. The periodic mechanical inspection shall specifically include the inspection of the following: manual door release, determine whether all the manual doors released operate as intended. 2. The handbrake of the parking brake as well as any part of the connection determine the mind that the proper condition operated in the same date of the last inspection shall either be determined in the form FRA F618049A suitable stencil tag of the equipment that is maintained electronically provided with the FRA to have the access to the record upon request, and an emergency roof access marking the instruction required under Statute 238-123E to determine whether the place in the applicable conditions are legible or both. Alright, records. The record shall be maintained each of the periodic mechanical inspection required to perform this section of the record shall be maintained in writing electronically provided with the FRA access to the record upon request. The record shall be maintained either by the railroad file with the cab of the locomotive designated location of the passenger car, except that provided in paragraph C4 with the section. The record shall be retained, but the next periodic mechanical inspection for the same type of the performed shall contain the following information. 1. The date of the inspection. 2. The location of the inspection was performed. 3. The signature and electronic identification from the inspector. 4. The signature and electronic identified with the inspector or supervisor. 2. Detailed documentation of any of the reliable assessment depending upon the implementation of alternative inspection internal under the paragraph A2 of the section including underlying data shall be retained during the period of the alternate inspection interval as in the data documentation inspection component of the replacement and the renewal of the failures should be retained not less than three inspection intervals. No conformity to any of the conditions set forth in the section rendered the car of the vehicle defective and when discovered in service. Alright, 233.309, periodic brake equipment. Generally, this section contains the minimum interval to which for the brake equipment, the various types of personal equipment that shall be periodically cleaned, repaired, tested. The maintenance procedure requires that all equipment, the brake system, the pneumatic component that containing the movement of the parts are sealed against the leaks and removed with an equipment disassembled, cleaned, lubricated, that the parts can be deteriorate within age and with age be replaced. Railroad petition FRA Associated Administrative Safety approved with the alternative of the maintenance for the proceeding with the providing with equivalent safety in the lieu of the requirements of the section. The petition shall be filed within place in statute 238-21 DMU and the multiple unit locomotives. Brake equipment in the brake cylinder, dead multiple units, the multiple unit locomotives shall be cleaned and replaced and tested with the filtering devices, dirt collectors located in the main reserve supply line, the air brake system cleaned and repaired with the place with the intervals in accordance with the following schedule. Every 736 days for the dead multiple or multiple unit locomotives is part of the fleet is 100% equipped with air dryers. Every 1104 days of the dead multiple unit locomotives is part of the fleet of 100% of the equipment of the air dryers is equipped with the PS68, 26E, the 26L, PS90, CS1, RT2, RT5A, GRP1, CS2, or 26R brake systems. The listing of the brake systems is identified as assumed with the brake system, assuming the 26 type, the ABD and ABDW control valves with the PS68 and the PS90, 26B1, 26C, 26EE, 26B1, and 30 CDW and 30 ECDW, the engineer brake valves. Alright, every 1,840 days of the dead multiple unit logos of the fleet of 100% equipped with the air driver, equipped with the KBHL1, KBHS1, and KBCT1, and every 736 days all other dead multiple unit locomotives. Conventionally locomotive with the brake equipment, each of the conventional locomotives shall be cleaned and repaired, tested in accordance with the schedule provided in Statute 229-29 with the chapter passenger coach for the other unpowered vehicles. Brake equipment in each of the passenger coach is each of the unpowered vehicles using the passenger train shall be cleaned and repaired and tested with the intervals according to the following schedule. Every 2,208 days for the chapter of the coach of the vehicle equipped with the AB type of the brake system. Every 1,476 days for the coach of the vehicle equipped with the 26D equivalent brake system. Every 1,104 days for the coach and the vehicle equipped with other than the AB, ABD, ABDX, and 26E equivalent brake systems. Each cab car with the brake equipment, each of the cab cars shall be cleaned and repaired, tested, and intervals in accordance with the following schedule. Every 1,840 days for the locomotive equipped with the CCB1, CCB2, CCB26, Epic 1, and form of Epic 30102 with Epic 3102D2, Epic 2, and CBS H1 and the fast brake systems. Every 1,476 days for the portion of the cab, the car brake using the brake valve identical with the passenger car's 26C systems. Every 1,104 days for the portion of the cab car brake used for the brake valve is identical with the locomotive 26L brake system. Every 736 days are all other types of the cab car brake valves. After the records are periodic maintenance of the date and place for the cleaning with the repairing of the testing required with the section recorded with the FRA 6180498 with the similar was developed the railroad containing with the same information for the person performing the work of the person supervisor shall sign the form if possible. Alternatively, railroad may be stencil The vehicle with the date and the place for the cleaning and preparing utensils to maintain an electronic record of the performing the work and the person supervised. The record of this part of the brake system of the cleaning with the prepared and tested and shoved the cap in the railroad's file, the cap of the locomotive, the designated location of the passenger car until the next such periodic testing as may be performed. Alright, 338, 311, single car test. This is for the self-propelled passenger car for single car test for all passenger cars and all unpowered vehicles of the passenger train shall be performed in accordance with either the APTA standards SSM 00598 code of the testing passenger car equipment using the single car testing device published in March 1998. The alternate procedure approved with the FRA pursuant to SB 23821 and with the incorporation for the reference to the APTA standard with the approved with the director of the Federal Register for the accordance with the Title 5 U.S. Code 5528 and Title 1 CFR Part 51. You may obtain a copy of the incorporated document with the American Public Transportation Association, 1201 New York Avenue, Northwest Washington, D.C. 200005. You may inspect the document with the Federal Administration, the document with 1200 New Jersey Avenue, Southeast Washington, D.C. National Archives Record Administration. For more information available to the material of the NARA 202-74-6030 HD Archives.gov Federal Register Code Federal Regulations. Each of the single car tests required with the single shall be performed by a qualified maintenance person. The railroad shall perform the single car test of the brake system for the car of the vehicle described in the paragraph A of the section of the car of the vehicle is found. One more following the wheels defects. 1. Built up tread. 2. Slid flat wheel. 3. Thermal crack. 4. Overheated wheel. 5. Shelling. The railroads should need not to perform the single car test required the paragraph of the section of the railroad can is up with the wheels defective or other than the builds up of the thread is due to the cause of the defective brake system on the car, except the provided in paragraph F of the section of the railroad shall perform the single car test of the brake system of the car of the vehicle described in paragraph A of the section, except for the private car and the car of the vehicle and service having been out of service for 30 days or more. Once or more, the following conventional air brake equipment is in to remove the repair and replace relay valve. 2. The service portion. 3. The emergency portion. 4. The pipe bracket. 5. Exceptions. In single car tests that can be made with the point where the repair or made of the car move with the passenger surface the next forward location where the test can be made with the railroad move with the car with the passenger only after the verifying the application relief of the brakes of both sides of the car repaired. Provided with the car is appropriately tagged and indicated the need to perform a single car test. The single car test should be complete with the prior to the two as a part of the car's next calendar day mechanical inspection. If one or more of the following conventional air brake equipment is removed with the repaired or replaced, only the portion of the renewed with the replaced must be tested to satisfy the provisions of the section. 1 brake cylinder, 1 brake reserve, 2 brake cylinder, 3 piston assembly, 4 vent valve, 5 quick service valve, 6 brake cylinder release valve, 7 modulating valve slack adjuster, and 8 angle cutout cocker cutout. 238, 313, Class 1 brake test. Each commuter and short-distance intercity passenger train shall receive the Class 1 brake test only once each of the calendar day with the train is played for the continuous passenger. Except for providing paragraph on one of the section, each long-distance intercity passenger train shall receive Class 1 brake test prior to the train departs for the original terminal. But every 1,500 miles, one each for the additional calendar day, whichever occurs further, the train remains the continuous passenger service to each of the passenger car. Each unpowered vehicle that added to the passenger train shall receive the Class 1A brake test for the time the train unless the notice is provided with the train crew that the Class 1 brake test was performed with the car with the previous calendar day where the car has not been disconnected from the source of the compressed air more than 4 hours prior to being added to the train. The notice required by this section shall contain the date and time location for the Class 1 brake test. Each Class 1 brake test shall be performed with a qualified maintenance person. Each Class 1 brake test may be performed separately with the conjunction with the exterior calendar day with the mechanical inspection required in 238-303. F. Except for the provided in 238-15B, but the railroad shall not use or haul passenger train to the person or at the location where the Class 1 brake test has performed, whether it was required this part to be performed with less than 100% of the operative brake. The Class 1 brake test shall perform with the air pressure for the train with the air brakes are operated with about less than 90 psi should be made to determine and ensure that the friction brake applying with the remain of the apply with each for the car of the train and lift the release for the brake has been initiated with each for the car respond to the train line, electrical, pneumatic, or other signals. Thus shall include the verification of each side of each for the car brake system responds properly to the application of the release signals. The brake shoe and pads are firmly received against the wheel of the disc with the brake applied. 3. The piston travel within the described limit of direct observation or observation with the piston travel in direct observation with the piston travel indicator or in the case of the tread or in disc brake with by determining the brake shoe with the pad provided with the pressure to the wheel. The vehicle is equipped with an 8.5 inch or 10 inch diameter of brake cylinder's piston travel should be less than 7 inch. If the piston travel is found to be less than 7 inches or more than 9 inches, it may be adjusted to nominal 7.5 inches. Proper relief of the brake can be determined in an observation vibration clearance between the brake shoe and the wheel between the brake pad and the brake disc. The communication signal system of the test with the known as the operating intent of the tested operation of the two-way ray radio meets the requirements 5 each for the brake shoe with the pad that securely fastened correctly aligned with the relation with the wheel with the disc. The engineer brake valve with the controller will cover the proper line with the train with the command with each position brake level setting. Brake pipe leakage does not exceed 5 pounds per square inch per minute, but the leakage will affect the surface performance. 8. The emergency brake application dead man pedal with the other emergency control devices or functions as intended. 9. Each brake shoe with the pad is not below the minimum thickness established by the railroad. The thickness shall not be less than the minimum thickness necessary to safely travel the class maximum distance allowed between the class 1 brake tests. Each angle cutout cock is properly positioned. 2. The brake rigging in the system mounted with the car of the transmission of the brake forcing operation intent that does not bind or follow the so they impede with the forces delivered with the brake shoe, impede with the release of the brake shoe, otherwise adversely affect the operation of the brake shoe. If the train is equipped with electro-pneumatic brakes and an electro-pneumatic application of the brake is made whether the train is walked and is determined that the brakes on each of the car of the train properly apply with each of the brake discs is previously in any graphic according to the manufacturer specification and the specification exists free of any crack with the extent of the design permits. 14. The equipment provided with the brake indicator operates as intended. The communication for the brake pipe pressure change for the rear of the train is verified, which may be accomplished by the observation application relief of the brakes and then last for the car of the train. H. Records. A record shall be maintained for each of the class 1 brake tests performed. The record shall be maintained written electronically provided with the FRA access to the record about the request. The written electronic record must contain the following information: the date and the time of the class 1 brake test was performed, the location where the test was performed, the identification number of the controlling locomotive of the train. 4. The total number of the cars inspected during the test. 5. The signature electronic identification for the inspector. 3. The record shall maintain at least at the place for the inspection for the conducted at one or central location that shall be retained at least 92 days. Long distance intercity passenger train miss with the schedule of the calendar class 1 brake test due to the delay of the en route with it may be proceed with the point to where the class 1 brake test was scheduled to perform the A class 1 brake test shall be completed at the point prior to the placing of the train back in service. J. Additionally, complying with all the class 1 brake test requirements performed the qualified maintenance personnel contained in the paragraph A through I of this section requires operating passenger equipment that is not designed to permit the visible observation of the brake actuator and relief of the inspector going on under the between the equipment of the accordance with the statute 238-231B with it shall perform the additional inspection minimum of additional inspection requirement that such equipment shall include all the following. 1. Additional inspection by all the qualified personnel of all the items components contained in the paragraph G1 through G15 of the section. Additional inspection shall be conducted with an interval not exceeding 5 in-service days shall be conducted with the equipment and so for the inspection of the pit and the raised inspection track. All records and additional inspections should be maintained pursuant to the requirements contained in paragraph H of the section. The record should be contained with the class 1 brake test record. Alright, 238-315, Class 1A brake test. Except for the provided in paragraph B of the section, either Class 1 or Class 1A brake test shall be performed prior to the first morning of the departure for each of the commuter and short distance intercity passenger train unless all the following conditions are satisfied. A Class 1 brake test was performed within previous 12 hours. Train has not been used for the passenger surface for the performance of a Class 1 brake test. The train has not been disconnected with the surface compressed for the air for more than 4 hours since the performance of Class 1 brake test. The fireplace for the train, the surface that has been stored for the commuter pressed for the air for more than 4 hours. B. The commuter and short distance intercity passenger train that provides the continuing late night service for the party beginning with prior to the midnight, complete with the daily operation cycle after the midnight, without performing another Class 1A brake test. The Class A1 or Class 1A brake test shall be performed on such a train before it starts the newly day operation. Class 1A brake test may be performed with the shop yard with the site would not require the reporting repeated with the first IX passenger surface of the train remains with the source of the compressed air, but the train remains in the custody of the train crew. The train crew received the notice that the Class 1A brake test has been performed. The Class 1A brake test will be performed with either the qualified personnel, qualified maintenance personnel, except as provided within statute 238-15B with the railroad shall not use the hull of the passenger train with the passengers with the location where the Class 1A brake test has been performed, whether performed or what's required with this part has been performed with less than 100% of the operative brakes. Class 1A brake test shall be performed if the air pressure for the train air brakes will be operated with a shell determined to ensure the brake pipe leakage does not exceed 5 pounds per square inch for the per minute with the brake pipe leakage and the surface performance. Each brake set and the release inspection of the manner of the paragraph G of the section of the multiple utilized for each of the electrical signal with the communicator with the brake application only pneumatic signal and propagate the emergency brake application. Emergency brake application functions in 10-4 angle of the the cutout, cock properly set. Communication with the brake pipe pressure change with the rear of the train verified that may be accomplished for the observation from the application release for the brakes over the length for the last train car. The communication signal system is intended not to operate with the intent to test the operating two of the radio system should meet the requirements, and determining whether the brake system is released for the inspection of the set of the release of the brake shoe. The brakes shall be completed with the walking the train directly observed with the set and release each of the brake of the railroad determines that such product procedure is safe. If the railroad determines the operating condition posed as a safety hazard for the inspector wasting the brakes, the brake indicators may be used to verify set release for the cars on equipped. However, the observation of the brake indicators shall not be made with the absolute in the locomotive. The inspector shall walk the train in order to position himself within his result to accurately observe each indicator. Alright, 238-317, Class 2 brake test. The Class 2 brake test shall be performed with the passenger train with any of the following events occur whenever the control stand with the control of the chain with the external with the control stand and chain with the facilitate with the movement of the passenger from the one track to another with the terminal complex while not with the passenger with the if the circumstance of Class 2 brake should be performed with the prior to the train dispatch with the train terminal complexity passengers. Prior to the first morning departure of each of the commuter short definite intercity passenger train where the Class 1 brake test remains valid as provided with the statute 238-315A1. When the previous tested unit of the cars received the Class 1 brake test within the previous calendar year and have not been disconnected with the source of the compressed air for more than 4 hours, and that of the train when the car's equipment are removed from the train when an operative first taken with the charge with the train except with the face-to-face relief. A Class 2 brake test shall be performed with the qualified qualified maintenance personnel, except the provided in 238-15. The railroad shall not use all the passengers train from the terminal yard over where the Class 2 the brake test has been performed, or was required for this part to have performed with any of the brakes cut out when the operatives defective. D. In the performing of Class 2 brake test on the test train, the railroad shall determine that the brakes of the rear unit of the train apply with the release response single to the emergency brake valve with the control of the leading of the control unit of the gauge with a similar device located with the rear of the train cab at the rear of the unit indicated with the brake pipe pressure change with the properly communicated with the rear of the train for the multiple unit locomotive utilize the electronic signal to communicate the surface brake application along with the pneumatic signal to propagate with the American emergency brake application. Emergency brake application functions as an intended communication signal. This test is known as the operator with the intended test for the operating to radio system meet the requirements. 238-319, running brake test. As soon as the conditions safely permit with the running brake test shall be performed by each of the passenger train after the train has received what's required on part of the receive either the Class 1, Class 1A, Class 2 brake test. Running brake test shall be performed whenever the control stand each of the control of the train with the chain with the facilitate movement of the passenger from the one track to another with the terminals complex involved not in passenger service. The running brake test shall be conducted in accordance with the railroad established operating rule that shall be made with applying of the brakes to the main to allow for the engineer to certain that whenever the brakes is operating properly with the engineer determine the brakes are not operating properly, the engineer shall stop in the train and follow the procedure provided in statute 238-15. 238-321, out of service credit. When the passenger car is out of service for 30 more consecutive days, the out of service is when it is due, and any of the testing inspection required in 238-307 and 238-309, the out of use rotation shown in the number of the service days shall be made with the records on for the 238-307E, 238-309 after the passenger car out of service with one more period or less of 30 consecutive days for the interval prescribed in any test of the inspection required in 238-307, 238-309 may be extended by a number of the days at each calendar of the passenger car without service the the last test of the section question movable made in accordance with 229.9 and of the chapter 238.17 does not consider the service of the purpose of the determination of the out of service credit. Subpart E, specific requirements for the Terrier 2 passengers equipment.